There are some cases that never really end. They just wait in the shadows. Until one day, they find their way back into your life. Hudson and Rex Season 8, Episode 4 is exactly that kind of story. A case that doesn't just challenge Detective Charlie Hudson's instincts, it challenges his heart. From the very first moment, you can feel it. This isn't just another mystery to solve. It's something personal, something that digs deeper than the badge. And as Rex's sharp eyes and loyal heart follow Hudson through every clue, you know, this episode is going to hit harder than most. The episode opens with a sense of quiet tension, the kind that tells you something big is coming. Even before a single word is spoken, the camera lingers on Hudson a little longer than usual. There's weight in his eyes, a kind of unspoken pain that even Rex seems to notice. When the call comes in about a new case, it feels different. Not because the crime itself is unusual, but because there's something in it that connects directly to Hudson's past as the investigation begins. We see Hudson shift gears. Normally, he's calm, methodical, and sharp, a detective who relies on logic more than emotion. But here, there's a spark of something else: memory. Each clue seems to pull him closer to something he's been trying to forget. The writers do an excellent job showing this inner struggle without heavy dialogue. Instead, it's the subtle things: a pause before he speaks. It's the tightening of his jaw, the way he looks away when someone mentions a certain name. These small details tell us that this isn't just work for Hudson. It's personal. Rex, ever the silent observer, senses it too. You can see it in how he stays close to Hudson, watching him with those intelligent eyes that somehow always seem to understand more than words can express. The bond between them feels stronger than ever here, not just as partners, but as family. And in this episode, that bond becomes the emotional anchor that holds Hudson together when things start to unravel. The pacing of the first act is deliberately slow, pulling the audience into Hudson's emotional state. The atmosphere is heavy, yet intimate. Every scene feels like a piece of a puzzle that Hudson both wants and fears to complete. The background score mirrors that tension, soft piano notes mixed with low, haunting tones that echo Hudson's inner conflict. What makes this section so powerful is how quiet it is. There's no need for grand speeches or sudden twists. The emotional impact comes from the stillness, from watching a man who has seen countless crimes suddenly face one that touches something deep inside him. It reminds the audience that even the strongest detectives aren't immune to the past, that sometimes solving a case means confronting yourself. By the end of this section, the tone has been set. The viewer isn't just watching a police drama. They're watching a story about grief, memory, and resilience. The mystery may drive the plot, but it's Hudson's personal journey that pulls you in and refuses to let go. And as the camera fades on his face, framed by the flickering light of the investigation board, one thing is clear: this isn't going to be an ordinary episode. The crime that kicks off this episode doesn't explode with action. It creeps in quietly, like a ghost from Hudson's past. A missing person report, a cold trail, and a name that stops him mid-sentence. It's in that moment the audience feels it. This isn't just another day at the station. Something about this case connects to a chapter in Hudson's life he thought was closed. The scene unfolds with a steady rhythm, flickering police lights against dark rain-soaked streets. Rex sniffing around with his usual focus, and Hudson standing a little too still. He's thinking not just about what happened, but who it happened to. The case involves someone from his old life, a person linked to a mistake or a memory that still haunts him. The show doesn't rush to explain it. Instead, it lets the silence tell the story. Hudson's eyes do the talking as the investigation begins. The familiar team dynamic kicks in. Joe is all business. Sarah offers her calm intelligence, and Jesse brings levity that briefly cuts through the heaviness. But even they can sense Hudson isn't himself. His focus is sharp, but his energy feels personal, almost guarded. When he revisits a location tied to his past, there's this quiet moment. No words, just Rex walking beside him, tail low. As if understanding that this time, his partner isn't just chasing a suspect, he's chasing closure. The writing in this section stands out because it avoids the easy route. It doesn't spell out Hudson's connection too soon. Instead, the tension builds through fragments: an old photograph, a name on a report, a familiar voice on the phone. Each clue pulls him deeper into memories he's tried to bury. The cinematography supports this: perfectly muted colors, soft lighting, and camera angles that linger on small details. Hudson's hand brushing over an old file. Rex pausing at a door like he senses the weight behind it. There's also a strong emotional undertone in how Rex reacts throughout the case. He isn't just a helper here, he's Hudson's emotional mirror. When Hudson grows restless, Rex stays close. When Hudson's guard starts to fall, Rex's quiet loyalty fills the silence. The partnership that has always been the heart of Hudson and Rex feels more alive and human than ever, even though one half of it can't speak. As the mystery deepens, the team uncovers something that shifts the case from tragic to personal, a direct link between the current victim and someone Hudson once failed to protect. It's the kind of revelation that hits like a slow-moving storm, not loud, but heavy. Hudson's composure starts to crack. You can see the guilt flicker across his face just for a second. Before he masks it behind professionalism, the audience feels torn. Part of you wants him to step back, to protect himself emotionally, but the other part knows he won't. Hudson doesn't run from pain. He buries it under duty. And that's what makes this episode so powerful. It doesn't just show a detective solving a case. It shows a man trying to make peace with the one thing he can't fix: the past. By the end of this section, the case is no longer about finding a suspect. It's about finding truth. And maybe, for Hudson, finding forgiveness. The tension rises, the clues point inward, and the deeper he digs, the closer he gets to a truth he may not be ready to face. The storm is building, and both Hudson and Rex are right in the middle of it. Some moments in Hudson and Rex don't need action to hit hard, they just need silence. The kind of silence that fills a room when someone remembers something they wish they could forget. This section of the episode is where that silence speaks loudest. Hudson isn't just chasing a criminal anymore. He's running from memories that have never really let him go. There's a scene that defines this turning point. Hudson, standing alone in his office late at night, the soft hum of the city outside, Rex resting quietly by the door. He stares at an old file, the one name he thought he'd never see again. The light from the desk lamp casts long shadows across the room, and in those shadows, we see the two sides of him: the detective who seeks justice, and the man haunted by the ghosts of what he couldn't fix. What makes this section powerful isn't the dialogue, it's the performance. John Reardon's portrayal of Hudson here is subtle but raw. Every pause, every glance downward, every heavy breath tells you more than any monologue could. You can feel the guilt pressing against his calm exterior. The kind of pain that doesn't fade, it just gets buried under routine, under badges and reports, until something like this case rips the scab open. And through all of this, Rex becomes more than just a partner, he's a presence. He doesn't speak, he doesn't judge, but he feels. There's a moment where Rex nudges Hudson's hand, just a simple gesture, and it says everything. You're not alone. It's in those small, quiet acts that the bond between them feels more human than most relationships on television. The show doesn't need to exaggerate it. It lets loyalty, trust, shared pain do the storytelling. The writing also leans heavily into reflection. Hudson isn't questioning the case. He's questioning himself. Did he make the right choices back then? Could he have done more? These thoughts play out not in words, but in the way he approaches every clue now. Slower. It's more careful, as if he's trying to make up for something. It's that emotional layering. It turns this episode from a simple procedural into a character study. The cinematography supports the tone beautifully. Scenes are framed tighter, closer. We're not looking at wide shots of action anymore. We're inside Hudson's space, feeling the air he breathes. The colors grow colder as the story deepens, with blues and grays replacing the usual warmth of the precinct. It mirrors his inner landscape, calm on the surface, storm underneath. There's also a brilliant use of pacing here. The show slows down, giving viewers time to sit in Hudson's discomfort. We see flashbacks hinted at through visual parallels rather than explicit memories, a detail in the new case that matches something old. A phrase repeated, a familiar location. It's like the past isn't being remembered, it's bleeding into the present. By this point, Hudson's emotional walls are starting to crack. The detective mask is slipping, and the man underneath, the one who carries guilt, compassion, and regret, begins to show. The team notices it, but they don't push. They give him space, the same way Rex does. And that quiet respect gives the audience permission to feel with him instead of for him. This section transforms the episode from a crime story into a personal reckoning. It's not about catching the bad guy anymore. It's about whether Hudson can forgive himself for the mistakes that shaped him. The deeper he dives into the case, the clearer it becomes. He's not just solving someone else's tragedy. He's trying to solve his own. Every great episode has a heartbeat, something that keeps it alive. Beyond the dialogue in the case file, in Hudson and Rex Season 8, Episode 4, that heartbeat comes from the craft behind the camera. The writing, direction, and cinematography all work together like instruments in a slow, haunting melody, one that tells Hudson's story even when no one is speaking. The direction in this episode is bold but quiet. It doesn't scream for attention. It guides your emotions without you realizing it. The camera often lingers on Hudson's face a second longer than expected, giving the audience time to feel what he's feeling. Every shot feels intentional. From the tight close-ups of his trembling hands to the slow pans that capture Rex's focused eyes, these moments don't just fill space. They build tension through intimacy. You're not watching a detective. You're inside his head. Lighting plays a silent but powerful role here. The episode's color palette leans towards shadowy blues and muted grays, echoing the heaviness of Hudson's state of mind. Notice how every scene that involves his past is slightly dimmer, softer, as if the light itself hesitates to intrude. But when Rex is in focus or when Hudson starts to find a clue that brings him clarity, the tone brightens just a little. It's subtle, but it gives the visual sense that hope still flickers. Even in the darkest corners of memory, the sound design deserves special mention. Instead of relying on heavy background scores, the episode uses space. You can hear the creak of the floor, the distant hum of city lights, the faint sound of Rex's paws against the pavement. These small auditory details pull you deeper into the atmosphere. They make the episode feel real, grounded in silence and breath. When the music does arrive, soft piano notes or low cello hums, it lands right in the chest. It doesn't tell you what to feel. It lets you recognize that you already do. And then there's the writing, perhaps the strongest layer of all. The dialogue in this episode is beautifully restrained. Hudson doesn't narrate his pain. He shows it through what he doesn't say. When a colleague offers sympathy, he deflects. When Rex looks at him too long, he walks away. It's the kind of writing that trusts the audience to read between the lines. To understand that silence can speak louder than words, what's truly clever is how the narrative structure mirrors Hudson's emotional arc. The investigation unfolds in fragments, small, disconnected clues that only start to make sense once Hudson accepts what he's been avoiding. It's a storytelling choice that mirrors grief itself, disjointed, confusing, heavy. Only by piecing together the truth does he begin to heal. The supporting cast also plays a vital role in grounding this emotion. Joe's firmness acts as a moral compass. Sarah's calm presence provides empathy. And Jesse's light humor creates just enough relief to keep the emotional weight from breaking the rhythm. Their interactions aren't filler. They're the threads holding Hudson together when his focus begins to fray. What elevates this episode technically is how every element sound. Light, pacing dialogue serves one goal: to make the audience feel Hudson's turmoil rather than just watch it. It's storytelling that doesn't just tell a crime story. It paints an emotional landscape. Each frame is a brushstroke of sorrow, strength, and healing. By the end of this section, the artistry behind Episode 4 becomes clear. It's not just another case in the series. It's a moment where craft meets character, where emotion and design become one. The director doesn't just show a story, they compose it like music. And in that harmony of emotion and craft, we find what makes Hudson and Wah More than just a procedural show, it becomes something deeply human. When the final moments of Hudson and Rex Season 8 Episode 4 unfold, there's a quiet stillness that feels almost sacred. The case may be closed, but not everything is resolved, at least, not for Hudson. Standing at the edge of the city skyline, with Rex by his side, it's a look on his face that says more than any confession or verdict ever could. It's the look of a man who's finally made peace with a part of himself he's been running from. And that's where this episode truly finds its strength, not in its mystery, but in its humanity. This isn't just a story about solving a crime. It's about understanding pain. Hudson's journey through this episode reminds us that even heroes carry scars. They just learn to live with them, to let them shape rather than break them. What makes this episode linger long after it ends is how it dares to show vulnerability without stripping away strength. Hudson isn't weak because he feels, he's strong because he does. Rex's presence in the closing scene is a quiet masterpiece of storytelling. No words, no fanfare, just a loyal partner sitting beside Hudson. The two sharing the kind of silence that only comes from understanding. It's not about solving the case anymore. It's about companionship, healing, and the unspoken promise that life, no matter how heavy, goes on. The camera doesn't rush the moment. It breathes with it. The light softens, the sound fades, and we're left watching two souls who've weathered another storm together. From a storytelling standpoint, the episode achieves something rare. It balances resolution with reflection. The mystery concludes logically, but the emotional story stays open, leaving viewers to feel rather than think. That's a hallmark of strong drama writing. The ability to close a plot while keeping the heart of the story alive. The show's creators understand that not every ending needs to be loud. Sometimes the quietest endings echo the longest. As the credits roll, the emotional residue of the story lingers. You think about the choices Hudson made, the pain he faced, and the courage it took to confront it. It's more than character development, it's emotional truth. The kind that reminds us that even in fiction, humanity is what connects us most. And that's what makes this episode stand out in Hudson Rex's long-running story. It's deeply personal, but universally resonant. We all have moments when our past catches up to us, when our sense of duty collides with emotion. Watching Hudson navigate that conflict isn't just good television, it's a mirror. It reminds us that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about accepting, learning, and moving forward. The final shot, Hudson walking away with Rex at his side, is simple yet powerful. Two silhouettes against the fading light, walking toward whatever comes next. It's not triumphant, it's not tragic, it's honest. And that's why this episode hits so deeply. So as the screen fades to black, you're left not with suspense, but with gratitude. Gratitude for storytelling that respects emotion, for performances that speak through silence, and for a partnership between man and dog that continues to be one of television's most genuine bonds. Because at its heart, Hudson and Rex isn't just about solving crimes. It's about the courage to face what's unsolved inside yourself. And in Episode 4, we see that courage in its purest form, quiet, steady, and deeply human.